Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Triple D Presents Face to Face with Dion and Shawn. I'm Dion.
And I'm Shawn.
And today we're going to talk about this committee hearing that they had, the House Committee on, it's not a subcommittee, it's the main committee.
It's a select committee.
Select committee. That's
on the assassination, on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump.
Right, which was the Butler, Pennsylvania, almost happened kind of thing. Not the guy who went to the Mar-a-Lago.
No,
because now there's two of them at least.
And I think they're investigating that one.
They're investigating that one, but yeah. Okay, so we're going to dive right in here. We got a lot to go through. We're going to start with the chair, Representative Kelly,
whose hometown is Butler, Pennsylvania.
Oh, I did not know that. He's actually from Butler, Pennsylvania. Ooh, that's interesting. Okay, that adds a little bit to the situation there. All right, so he's going to kind of start us off, and we're going to go directly through his intro, and then right into the next person. So once again, thank you, Shawn, for going through this and giving us the timestamps and everything that we need in order to present you with the most concise information possible. Here we go.
Secret Service effort on July 13th. These men are the first individuals who helped provide security at the July 13th rally to testify before Congress. They are here to give their accounts of what they saw and experienced both at the rally and in the planning process leading up to it, the key being the planning process leading up to it. I do expect they will share enlightening information about mistakes and regrets, but also about heroic and selfless actions taken by local law enforcement that day. It's important to remember that these men and their units were not in charge of July 13th, nor did they have a hand in designing the Secret Service security plan. Those responsibilities belong to the Secret Service.
Right.
These men answered a call to play a role protecting the public and our political process, even though providing security at a political rally is not their usual line of work. Our country already knows what happened at 6/11 on Sunday, July 13th in Butler. The law enforcement professionals with us today are here to tell us about specific actions and events that led to this outcome. Testifying today, we also have the medical examiner who performed the autopsy on Thomas Crooks. He is testifying to answer questions about how Crooks died and to hopefully put to rest some theories and doubts that often seem to follow high-profile violent events. Finally, our panel includes a distinguished retired Secret Service agent who played no role in the events of July 13th and is on this panel to provide insights into Secret Service protocols and practices.
I'm going to pause it real quick just because I want to touch on something. It doesn't, it's easy to go, oh, he's stumbling over a lot of words. When you're reading something, especially in front of a whole bunch of cameras or even one camera, mistakes happen. I try not to get too caught up in that unless they do it all the time. Just saying, I can be kind of finicky in that regard. Sometimes be like, but I'm not going to do so today. This is important.
After this hearing, the task force will use what we have learned from today's testimonies, additional documents, and local law enforcement resources in the next phase of our investigation. In this next phase, we will be seeking answers about the Secret Service's questionable decisions regarding planning, resources, and the apparent lack of leadership that led to complacency and vulnerability on July 13th. Since the task force added its first staff in August, following a unanimous 416-0 vote by this House of Representatives to establish this panel, we have led a thorough, fact-based, and bipartisan investigation. Our duty, as expressed in the resolution establishing the task force, is to investigate and present a report making recommendations by December 13th that address the Secret Service's security failures. This task force is fully on track to fulfill our duty. This hearing is not our last word or conclusion. It is a window for the public to see our important ongoing work. Finally, I want to take a moment to address former President Trump, who after September 15th has now decided in two assassination attempts, he's going to return to the Butler Farm Show on October the 5th.
Which he did today.
I want to personally commend the former president and his family for the incredible strength they have shown since July 13th. I can't imagine anybody looking at this and looking at it. And please separate the politics from all of this.
Right.
This is a United States citizen running for a political office. He has a wife, he has children, he has grandchildren. Nowhere In our whole scope of government, can we accept the fact that these people jeopardize or put their life in danger by running for a public office? Totally
Right.
unacceptable. I think he's owed a lot better than what he got that day, and also we're going to be looking at Florida. But we've been warned about these clear threats to his safety twice. It's the obligation of this Congress, this administration, and public servants at all levels of government to stand against those who would use violence to interfere with our elections. Every American should be outraged, regardless of who they intend to support, by these attempts to nullify their votes through violence. We use ballots, not bullets, to make a determination of who should serve. Today's hearing is the task force's latest attempt to seek accountability and answers on what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, and to restore the faith, trust, and confidence the American people deserve. One last thing before I recognize Ranking Member Jason Crow and I have I think for whatever reason, we're put at the same place at the same time for the right reasons. I am going to ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a letter from Leader Scalise granting us permission to have one of our witnesses testify remotely today, and without objection, so ordered. I now recognize the distinguished ranking member from Colorado, Mr. Crow, for his opening remarks.
Thank you, Chairman. And I want to start by thanking all of the witnesses for coming here willingly on your own time to provide really important information for this panel and for the American people as we seek answers that they need. Political violence has no place in our democracy, period. We must be united in our belief as Americans, not as Republicans or Democrats, that political disagreement is settled through rigorous debate, not violence. That is why this task force's investigation and today's hearing are so important. Since the establishment of this task force just 2 months ago, I have worked closely with Chairman Kelly to ensure that this investigation is and remains bipartisan. The members of this task force and our staffs are coordinating closely to ensure that we establish the facts of the security failures of July 13th so that we can help ensure that those failures never happen again. It is
Okay. And I think that really is the best summary of this whole thing that's going on. Let's make sure this doesn't happen again, because even though I think Biden's a moron, I think he's barely there. I think, Kamala is a cackling hyena of the highest order. I don't want to see political violence.
No.
I don't want to see her harm.
No.
So we have got to get away from the people who think that form of expression is okay.
Violence is never the answer.
Violence is never the answer, unless you're defending yourself. They've already gone down that road.
We have a right to defend ourselves.
We do have a right to defend ourselves. But anyway, okay, so our next clip is, let's see here.
Probably the swearing in.
Yeah, here it is. Okay, the swearing in of the witnesses. 8:42 is the next clip. And I think they have some really interesting witnesses.
Yeah.
Today. Check this out, guys.
Thank you, Chairman. I yield back.
I'll now introduce our witnesses. Today, we are joined by Mr. Edward Lenz, who serves as the commander of the Butler County Emergency Service Unit. Commander Lenz is also a sergeant with the Adams Township Police Department. On July 13th, while working for Butler ESU, Commander Lenz was stationed in the local command post at the campaign rally site. Next, we have Mr. Drew Blasco, who is a patrolman for Butler Township Police Department. Patrolman Blasco is also a sniper team assistant leader for Butler County ESU. On July 13th, while working for Butler Township, Patrolman Blasco was stationed with a Secret Service agent where former President Trump's motor car arrived. Our third witness is Mr. John Harold, who is a lieutenant for the Pennsylvania State Police. Lieutenant Harold was the officer in charge for the Pennsylvania State Police on July 13th.
Okay.
Next, we have Mr. Patrick Sullivan, who has served over 40 years in federal law enforcement. He began his career at 18, working for the FBI. Then he joined the Secret Service as a special agent, where he served 23 years, retiring as a supervisor. Though he is retired and was not present on July 13th, he served on the Secret Service Presidential Protection Division for 4 years and conducted numerous advances, both domestic and foreign. His expertise will be helpful in context of how the Secret Service works with local law enforcement to ensure the safety of all protectees. Last but not least, we have Dr. Ariel Goldschmidt testifying remotely. Dr. Goldschmidt is the Chief Medical Examiner for the Allegheny County Office of the Medical Examiner. Dr. Goldschmidt conducted the autopsy of the would-be assassin, Thomas Matthew Crooks. We appreciate all of you for being here today. Before recognizing the witnesses for their testimony, I would like to remind them that their oral testimony is restricted to 5 minutes in length. If you see the light turn red in front of you, it means your 5 minutes have concluded, and you should try to wrap up your testimony as quickly as possible. Will the witnesses please stand and raise their right hands? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony that you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Let the record show that all the witnesses answered in the affirmative. I now recognize Commander Lenz for his 5 minutes opening remarks. Commander, thank you for being here today.
Okay, so we're going to jump right into him. Again, Edward Lenz, he is the overall commander of the Butler County Emergency Unit, right?
Emergency unit.
Yeah. So he's the guy in charge of that division, that group.
Good morning. My name is Edward Lenz. I'm a patrol sergeant for the Adams Township Police Department in Butler County, Pennsylvania, and the commander for the Butler County Emergency Services Unit. I was the commander of the local tactical units operating at the Butler, PA presidential rally on July 13th. Butler ESU was initially requested to assist the U.S. Secret Service at the Butler rally by providing 2 counter-assault teams and a quick reaction force. Later, 2 sniper teams were added to that request during the planning process. We were assisted at the Butler rally by the Beaver County Emergency Services Unit, the Washington County Regional SWAT Team, and pre-hospital staff from Allegheny Health Network. Beaver ESU provided a 2nd armored vehicle with a counter-assault team and 2 police snipers. Washington Regional SWAT provided 4 tactical operators and 2 police snipers, and Allegheny Health Network provided an EMS physician and a paramedic to assist the tactical EMS providers already embedded with our teams. Across the 2 counter-assault teams, the quick reaction force, the 3 sniper teams, and support personnel, we provided a total manpower of 44 persons, exceeding the number requested by the Secret Service.
Okay.
At no point during the planning process was Butler County ESU asked to secure the AGR complex, nor the perimeter surrounding that area. At no point.
Now I'm going to pause it there because that is really, really important. No, I'm going to back it up so you guys can hear that again.
The AGR. At no point during the planning process was Butler County ESU asked to secure the AGR complex, nor the perimeter surrounding that area.
Yeah, because that Secret Service was trying to say that they were in charge of that.
Yeah, that was the big contention, guys. You remember? Secret Service is saying, well, it was the local people who were supposed to make sure that was clear. And this guy who was the commander of the very unit they tried to throw under the bus is saying, at no point were we asked to secure that building or the perimeter around it. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
At no point during the planning process was Butler ESU asked to deploy a sniper team to the roof of the AGR complex. And at no point in our operations plan did we ever say that we would deploy a sniper team to the roof of the AGR complex.
Interesting.
From their positions inside the AGR building, the snipers were not able to see the roof where the shooter was located. And again, that was not within their area of responsibility. Very interesting. Butler County is our home.
Now that is really interesting because the last time we heard, we did the previous hearing where they talked to some people and Secret Service, again, it was Butler County. It was the ESU team. It was the snipers. They were supposed to be on the roof. And this guy's saying that's not accurate at all.
No.
That wasn't under our purview. Secret Service was supposed to handle that. Now, either it's what we've often come to learn as a failure to communicate, or somebody set somebody up.
Some of those attending that rally were our neighbors, our friends, our families, our coworkers.
Mm-hmm.
And in fact, my wife was one of the paramedics embedded with our team at the rally.
Wow.
And she provided treatment to those that had been shot. Each and every team
I don't know.
member
It was doing
took
that
their
earlier.
job serious and their responsibilities serious. Illustrative of this, A member of the QRF had observed several suspicious persons in the area of the AGR building, one of whom ended up being the shooter. This information was relayed to uniformed patrol officers assigned to post along the perimeter and was discussed with the snipers posted inside the AGR building. A Beaver County sniper in the AGR building was able to take a photograph of the suspicious male while he sat near the AGR building, and again later saw him using a rangefinder pointing towards the stage. And this information was promptly reported to the Pennsylvania State Police and the Secret Service Command Center, the Butler County Sheriff's Office, and the Butler Township Police Department. Had these officers not picked up on this suspicious behavior, we likely would not have known anything was wrong until shots were fired.
Now, that's another interesting piece of information there that runs counter to what we were told, right?
Mm-hmm.
Secret Service said, oh, they didn't communicate that there was a guy here. We weren't told. You remember that? When they said that? Oh, yeah, it was a long time between the time they detected him and when they actually reported it. Again, this guy's saying, no, they saw him, they immediately reported it.
Prior to those shots being fired, an operator from Butler ESU had exited the Red Barn behind the stage and was monitoring the AGR area due to the suspicious person reports. When shots rang out, he was able to quickly identify where the shots were coming from. He observed the shooter, he shouldered his rifle, he acquired his target, and he fired one round at the shooter, which caused the shooter to recoil and briefly fall out of sight. He did this less than 6 seconds after shots began, using his short barrel M4 platform rifle chambered in .556 with an EOTech weapon sight at a distance of approximately 110 yards. He remained on target, prepared to engage with additional rounds, and as the shooter slowly came back into sight, a Secret Service counter sniper fired a round striking the shooter, ending the active threat.
And just so you guys know, I don't know what's going on with the video and the audio. It's
I'm not
kinda
sure.
Glitchy. It's not on my end. It's apparently the Forbes video itself. And if you guys want to look at this video yourself, it's, as you can see on the screen, Forbes breaking live: the task force on the attempted assassination of Donald Trump hold a hearing. There you
No other rounds were fired by the shooter after he was engaged by the Butler ESU operator. Since July 13th, we have cooperated with multiple investigations, and our members have been interviewed by the Pennsylvania State Police, the FBI, the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, the Secret Service Mission Assurance Investigators, the Homeland Security Independent Review Panel, Senator Grassley's office, and of course, this House task force. We have done so without subpoena, and I am here today without being subpoenaed. Butler County ESU has nothing to hide, and we will continue to cooperate, as I believe the American people deserve the truth. The events that occurred at the Butler rally are nothing short of a tragedy. Evil will always be a threat, and we must continually review our own actions, adjust our operations, and constantly strive to achieve perfection, though we will never achieve it. Thank you.
Well, that was revelatory, wasn't it? That's a lot. That's a lot to unpack. We're going to save like most of our comments till the end, I think. But I do want to say this right here is directly counter to what the claims were by the Secret Service.
Yeah.
I mean, directly counter, which I find interesting. We got Diggs. What is it? Diggs BTW7. Hey, what's up? Hey, Big Diggs. Yeah, Diggs. What's up, man? Yeah, this is already kind of blowing some holes in the whole Secret Service narrative of how things actually happened and went down. So I'm very much looking forward to the rest of the testimony. Our next witness is Drew Belasco. He's a patrol officer.
Thank you, Commander Lenz. I appreciate it. And I know how heartfelt this has been for you and how gut-wrenching it has been for you, because we talked right after this. That's the purpose of today's hearing. Local law enforcement has gone through way too much.
Yeah.
So we're going to get to the bottom of it. The work you did today was exceptional. Thank you. I'm now going to recognize.
And imagine being one of the local officers, right? And doing your job like it's supposed to be done, and then being thrown under the bus by the Secret Service, who dropped the ball on so many things. And told, oh, it's them. They screwed up. I'm sure that was.
Yeah, that would be rough.
Patrolman Blasco for his 5-minute opening remarks.
Good morning, members of Congress and of the task force. My name is Drew Blasco. I'm a patrol officer with Butler Township Police Department and assistant team leader of the sniper unit with Butler County Emergency Service Unit, as well as a veteran of the U.S. Army. Please let me begin by stating that the place where the deadly events of July 13th unfolded is my home. I was born and raised in Butler Township, Pennsylvania, and I've regularly attended the annual farm show on those very grounds since I was a child. The Butler Township community is sacred to me and to the members of the police community with whom I serve. Many of our families and friends work in Butler Township, and our police force works very hard day in and day out to ensure their safety and to maintain the peace and safety of all who come into the township. The events that ultimately played out were horrific and tragic. A man lost his life, his family lost a husband and a father. People's lives were changed forever. I had the unique perspective of wearing two hats for this rally. As an ESU member and assistant team leader of the sniper unit, I took part in some of the planning meetings, which included interaction with the Secret Service. On the day of the event, I worked as a Butler Township officer, assisting with traffic control to ensure that the roads and intersections were clear for the arrival and departure of the motorcade. I would like you all to know that I, my fellow township officers, and ESU team members are committed to doing all that we can to help prevent similar tragedies from taking place in the future. We have voluntarily participated in numerous interviews with state and federal investigators, including those of this task force. We have done so to be transparent and to do what we can to help make political rallies and public events safer. And most importantly, to prevent the lives from being shattered whenever evil men are determined to pursue evil deeds. Thank you.
Very short and sweet on him, man. So let's see here. The next oh, wait a minute. Okay, yeah. The next one is John Harold from the Pennsylvania State Police.
Thank you, Mr. Blasco. Now recognize Lieutenant Harold for his 5-minute opening remarks. Lieutenant Harold.
Lieutenant Harold.
Chairman Kelly, Ranking Member Crow, and members of the House Task Force. I am Lieutenant John D. Harold of the Pennsylvania State Police, and I proudly entered the State Police Academy in 2005. And I have been a supervisor since 2013. I was the officer in charge of our personnel at the Butler Farm Show site on July 13th rally for former President Donald J. Trump. The officer in charge has overall supervisory responsibility for the PSP assets assigned to the detail, and I performed those duties, including visiting each PSP post to ensure the assignments were clear and they had adequate resources. I also took part in planning meetings for the rally for former President Trump with Secret Service and local law enforcement, as well as preparing PSP's operation plan for the Butler Farm Show site. I appreciate the opportunity to join you today to discuss the event as it pertains to the state police. The state police is a full-service police department composed of 4,562 sworn members, 1,616 civilian employees providing various law enforcement services to communities and local, county, regional, state, and federal partners.
Okay. The next little clip we have is at the 2216. And this is going into Patrick Sullivan, former Secret Service. That's the guy that he was talking about, had like, what, 40 years of federal law enforcement experience, was actually on presidential protection detail for 4 years. So this guy knows
Any
a lot.
questions you may have?
Thank you, Lieutenant Harold. I now recognize Mr. Sullivan for his 5-minute opening remarks. Mr. Sullivan.
Chairman Kelly and Ranking Member Crow and distinguished members of the task force, I am Patrick Sullivan, retired Secret Service agent with 23 years of service.
Yeah, it's doing that. It's some kind of weird, I don't know if it's a compression issue. It wouldn't surprise me because let's face it, YouTube sucks.
I am honored to appear before you today. I'm a life member of the International Association of Chiefs of Police and the Fraternal Order of Police. I'm also a board member of the United States Secret Service Association. I'm speaking for myself this morning as a subject matter expert. The information that has come to light so far regarding the security failures in Butler is shocking and infuriating. However, I am very, very proud of the bravery of the agents who put themselves in harm's way to save former President Trump and the skill of the counter sniper that neutralized the incoming gunfire with one shot. I served as a Secret Service agent in many investigative, protective, and supervisory assignments. Make no mistake, the Secret Service cannot function without the assistance of its state and local law enforcement partners. I truly believe the men and women of the Secret Service have the most difficult and unforgiving job in law enforcement.
I agree. It is an extremely difficult job. And you know what? I will say this. I think almost all of our law enforcement should be paid more than they currently receive.
The next person is interesting.
At the same time, I want to make sure to clarify, in situations like what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania, when there are obvious security lapses, full accountability needs to be had. You said the next person is that's the medical exam.
Yeah.
Is it something unexpected? Because I had heard from an ME who gave, pretty much what we expected.
I think it's expected, but it's still interesting.
I absolutely believe it's interesting. Okay, so Dr. Ariel Goldschmidt, and they were allowed to be remote.
Yep, he's remote.
Which is unusual, but not unheard of. So this is 2738. Look at that. Wow. And
I now recognize Dr. Goldschmidt for his 5-minute opening remarks. Now, the witness is going to be testifying over the phone, right? Okay.
Okay.
Dr. Goldschmidt, please.
Good morning, Chairman Kelly, Ranking Member Crow, and distinguished members of the task force. My name is Dr. Ariel Goldschmidt. I'm the Chief Medical Examiner for Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. On July 13, 2024, after the attempted assassination of former President Trump, I, through my staff, reached out to the Butler County coroner, Bill Young, to offer our assistance if needed. Later that night, our assistance was accepted by Butler County, and arrangements were made to transport the bodies of Thomas Matthew Crooks and victim Corey Dean Comparator to our office. Our office wasn't involved in the transportation of the decedents. However, once they were transported to our office, the required chain of custody work was processed. The following morning, July 14 at 9:15 a.m., I began Mr. Crooks' autopsy with the assistance of other technicians named in my report. Prior to the autopsy, the body was x-rayed. Major handprints were obtained by the FBI Major Incident Program Manager, Brian Johnson, and gunshot residue test samples were collected by autopsy technician Lauren Perrin.
Okay.
My involvement in the case was limited to the autopsy, in which I determined that Thomas Crooks died as a result of a high-velocity gunshot wound to the head with an entrance wound of the left upper lip. I had no reports from or involvement in the investigation into Mr. Crooks' motives or actions, crime scene evidence, or other outside evidence as part of my work. Items of evidentiary value collected during the autopsy were transferred to the custody of the FBI. Once I received the results of toxicology testing, which was performed by our laboratory, I completed a written autopsy report, which was signed August 5th and delivered to Butler County. Our office's involvement in the case concluded on July 22nd, 2024, when Mr. Crooks' body was released to a funeral home pursuant to the directives of the Butler County coroner.
Okay. Yeah. That seems to track with most of the stuff that we've heard because, he's down like this on the rifle. The shot from the sniper entered into here and passed up and back through the back of the head.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Pretty much what
it was expected, but I still think it was interesting.
But absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I think it's really, really important that we include factual data points because there had been some outlandish claims, that like he didn't even take any shots, that it was somebody else that shot. I mean, I'm not saying this. I'm saying what some of the claims have been, especially on social media, that, you know, Crooks didn't even shoot. It was someone else who, I don't know about any of that. But I did find it interesting that they performed GSR, gunshot residue testing, and apparently it came back positive. I didn't hear that actually, but I assume it's all in the reports. And that if it was negative, someone would have brought it up, I would think, right? Our next clip
It's an interesting one too.
is right after this, and this goes to Representative Kelly, the chair.
Never seen video before.
Okay,
This will be interesting.
Pay attention, guys.
Thank you, Doctor. Now we're going to move to member questions under the 5-minute rule, and I'm going to recognize myself for 5 minutes of questions. First, we're going to show a video to get things started. The footage you are about to see is from this dash cam of a Pennsylvania State Police patrol car on July 13th. This footage has never been released to the public, and it has been edited to show relevant parts.
Okay.
The video, as you will see from the timestamp in the upper right-hand corner, begins at 18:08.
Okay.
Or 8 minutes after 6 p.m.
Yep.
In the first 12 seconds of the video, you will see a figure circled in red crossing the roofs of multiple AGR buildings. This man is Thomas Crooks. You will then see the patrol car begin moving toward the AGR buildings, and we lose sight of Crooks. But about 19 seconds into the video, he reappears. Again, we have circled him in red before we lose sight of him at about 20 seconds later. Now, we cut the video for length, so it picks up at about a minute and a half later at 6:10 p.m. and 38 seconds. Here you will see law enforcement around the AGR building. At this point, all law enforcement entities staffing the rally are aware that there is an individual on the roof of AGR, but they do not know he is armed. Behind the trees, you will see one officer attempting to lift another officer up onto the roof, and you will see that officer pull himself up and look to the left. According to that officer's interview with the task force, he sees Crooks with the long gun, and Crooks turns and points the weapon in his direction. The officer then falls to the ground, injuring his ankle, and radios that the man on the roof is armed at 11 minutes after 6. That portion of the video ends here. We know that the first shot from Crooks is fired just 32 seconds later. We will play the video now.
Before we get into the video, think about that. All of that happened in the course of about 2 minutes.
And we've seen that. We've heard all this before. It's just now we can actually kind of see it.
Yeah, now we can actually see it on the video. But that's a very short time window. But it just goes to show how important perimeter security is to ensure that this doesn't happen.
This will take about 51 seconds. There's no one in.
Yep. See him there. And we lose sight of him. Yep. You guys
He's
can
right
see
in there.
Right here. Yeah, he poked his head up. The weapon turned in his direction and he dropped back down, which I get, dude. I mean, come on.
The cop, you mean?
Yeah, the officer.
I realize it's hard to see some of this, but so Crooks, as he makes his way across the roof, this is, by the way, a Pennsylvania State Police cruiser, and it has the dash cam. So you're able to see some things that nobody else was able to see, but I know it's difficult. Lieutenant Harold, I'm going to direct the first line of questioning to you since this is state police footage.
Okay.
Footage and evidence show that Crooks was on the roof of the AGR building for over 3 minutes before shots were fired. Lieutenant Harold, please describe those few minutes leading up to the shots fired from your vantage point.
My position when the shots were fired, I was behind the stage. I can't answer to any questions regarding Mr. Crooks on the roof because I did not have that information. I was behind the stage. It was very loud, and if it was transmitted over our portables, I did not hear that. But I had returned to my car briefly. once the former president had taken the stage to retrieve a cell phone that had FirstNet, and then I was returning back to the stage when the first shot rang out.
For those of you guys who don't know what FirstNet is, it's the AT&T network that was set up for first responders.
Okay.
It's a separate, basic, secure but prioritized cell service for messaging and phone calls. That in the wake of various tragedies, they've discovered that obviously when something bad happens, people are trying to reach their relatives and call out.
9/11.
Yeah, and there was no way for first responders to have access because the lines are swarmed. So finally, they thought, it might be a good idea to have, a dedicated network for first responders. Gee, you think? Yeah.
Officer Blasco, same question.
At that time, I was at Brady Paul, and I was working my way over to the AGR building to assist other Butler Township units with looking for crooks. As I got to the water tower, I parked underneath the water tower and began to make my way to AGR. That's when the shots rang out.
Okay, now that's interesting. That explains the police vehicle that was under the water tower that a lot of people have had questions about. What is that vehicle? What was it doing there? It turns out it was this guy. Interesting.
Thank you. Commander Lenz, you were reportedly the first person to call out shots fired over the radio. Were you aware that someone was on the roof or that he was armed prior to the shots being fired? Also, please describe those few minutes leading up to shots fired from your vantage point.
For the first two questions, yes, I was aware through radio traffic that there was somebody on the roof and also that he was armed. The first report that there was somebody on the roof came on a different radio channel than the tactical units were operating, which would be PD Ops 3. And that transmission at 18:08 and 20 seconds is somebody's on the roof. At 18:09, I made a phone call to the PSP sergeant in the Secret Service Command Center and relayed the information that there was a suspect on the roof of the AGR building. There was some additional radio traffic from the Butler Township police units. And at 18:11:03 hours on that PD Ops 3 channel, again, not the channel the tactical units were operating, is the Butler Township unit that reports he is armed. I believe he says, I see him, he's laying down, and he has a long gun. So my actions for that, at that point, the gentleman on the roof clearly is a threat, and I radioed to our quick reaction force to deploy them to the AGR complex to begin to address that threat. Prior to me finishing that radio transmission, you can hear the shots being fired through my open microphone.
Okay. I have a problem going back to the actual sighting of Mr. Crooks more than once and way before 11 minutes after 6. I think that one of the things is the panel has heard from different people at different times is of the thousands of people that were on the grounds that day, there is repeatedly one person that keeps standing out in the back and forth, all the different communication. And it is, in fact, Thomas Crooks that they're talking about. So we knew there was somebody that was very suspicious. We also knew there was somebody that we weren't able to actually come in contact with, and we kept losing contact with him. We saw him with a rangefinder. We saw him doing things that were not probably in line with what people go to a rally for. And I think that I'm constantly going to be wondering at what point did somebody say, we're not sure the area is secure and safe?
Right?
Yeah.
There's enough understanding before that. The way you all responded, I think, was incredible. I want to thank you for that, but I still can't understand of all the different people that were on the grounds that day, thousands of people, there's only one consistent person that they identify, and it is ultimately the shooter. So I don't believe the grounds were safe and secure that day. I'm just trying to understand is what it was or what it would have taken for somebody to say, keep Mr. Trump inside until we clear this up.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Commander Lenz, because you and I have had not just minutes, but hours together, and a couple of days where we've gone a deep dive to what happened. Do you feel that the Secret Service adequately prepared you and your men for July 13th?
believe I can answer the tasks that they had given us, which would be to provide 2 counter assault teams, 2 sniper teams, and a quick reaction force. We were certainly prepared for the missions that they had given us.
Okay.
There were additional things, obviously, that probably needed covered, but they never asked us to do that. They never tasked us with that. So given what they specifically asked us to do, we were certainly prepared to do that.
Okay, so you did.
And that's a critical distinction there, I believe. We did exactly what we were asked to do. But as we've heard several times, do you think that the leaving out of the AGR building was accidental?
I don't know.
I mean, that's a hell of a question. I know, obviously, we don't have all the facts right now, but I find it really suspicious that they coordinate all this stuff and ask people to do all these different things, but there's this obvious gap in security that they conveniently don't have people assigned to. I mean, it just doesn't pass the smell test.
What they asked you to do. But looking back at it now, the question is, did they clearly identify what it is that they expected of you or what you could have been responsible for? Mr. Blasco, same question.
So I took my direction from Commander Lenz, and of the things that we were asked to do from my direction from Commander Lenz for the pre-planning stages for the sniper teams, I would feel that I did what was requested of me from Commander Lenz.
Okay, so hindsight's always 20/20. Looking back on that, do you think you were adequately prepared for what it is that ultimately happened?
There's always things that you think that you can do better, but with the information that we had,
That's the key.
I believe that we did the very best that we can, or we could.
Exactly. With the information they had, I don't think it was the local police that screwed this up.
No.
Especially once we have multiple people saying Secret Service never asked us to secure that perimeter, nor did they have us responsible for it.
And the Secret Service has had problems in the past as well. So
Yes,
this
they
is not
have.
the first. I mean, they haven't had a presidential assassination attempt, but they've had other issues before.
Yeah, they've had several issues. The Secret Service, like,
I don't think it's the actual agents; it's the leadership at the top.
Yeah,
That's the
like
problem.
the on the ground agents, it's much like the FBI, right? So Trump has consistently said that the rank and file FBI are great men, right? I have a family member who actually works with them on a very frequent basis, and they're great people, but the leadership has been compromised.
And there's a movement. I don't know if it's ever going to pass or not, but there's talk since this assassination. The Secret Service is under the Department of Homeland Security.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be under the Treasury Department.
Right.
There's talk to push them back under the Treasury Department. So that might fix some of the problems.
It might.
But I think it's something that they definitely need to look into.
Oh, for sure. Like we have to fix the agencies in this country. We got to fix this country. But one of the steps of doing that is we have to fix these rogue agencies. The Secret Service isn't doing its job.
No.
The FBI isn't doing its job. I mean, we've seen it, and the IRS spends more time targeting small business owners than they do going after multimillionaires who aren't paying their taxes. Let's be real here. It's ridiculous. All right. So our next clip is Representative Crow, the ranking member, Democrat from Colorado, at the 42:38 mark.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Sullivan, I wanted to start with you for a moment. I served in the Army before coming to Congress. And one of the principles of operations, as Mr. Blasco, I'm sure, is familiar, is you have to have unity of command and you have to have effective communications. Without unity of command and effective communications, a unit cannot operate. So one of the things I'm struggling with is this idea that there wasn't a single unified command station on site. The Secret Service did not establish that.
There was 2.
Is that atypical in your experience? Would there normally be?
That is I don't even have to wait for his.
Yeah.
You always have a single command structure, and then you may have like other like commanders on site to look.
But for some reason, that day there was 2.
Yeah, that's highly suspicious.
And so when he was there today, Fox News was talking about how they moved it back to just having 1, like for today's rally, which was good.
Yeah.
One command and control station to unify command and communications?
Yes, that's very atypical. I am very surprised. Normally, there will be an overall command post for the entire visit.
Yeah.
Then each site will have what's called a security room where radio traffic pertinent to that individual site is controlled. And the command post, the overall command post, should be the state, local police, Secret Service, and other federal partners that may be assisting. So this is very unusual that the way it turned out here at this site.
Do you have any sense in this instance as to why that might occur? Are there instances where when you're conducting an event, you would do multiple command posts, or can you not see why that would be the case?
Well, it's a misnomer, Congressman. The multiple command posts, the Secret Service always has security rooms at individual sites, and they may be termed a command post, but it's really a mini command post. There should be just one overall command post, and each site has their own kind of communication center where information relative to that site will be transmitted. For example, the airport agents or security there really are not concerned what's happening at the other sites because they're only concerned about the airport. So there'd be a security room just for the airport site.
It's probably safe to say that time and speed is really important, right? Because the idea behind that, I don't mean to put words in your mouth, but the idea behind that is if there's something identified as being wrong, a suspicious person, that has to be very quickly communicated, right?
Yeah, this is how it should happen. The protective detail is on one specific frequency, Secret Service frequency, and only the protective details on that frequency. The poststanders are on a second frequency, and the tactical teams are on a third frequency, but the other tactical teams monitor all 3 frequencies at the same time. So if something happens, it's at the security room's responsibility to immediately go on the radio on the details frequency and say, there's an issue, remove the protectee from the stage or cover and evacuate. That's what's supposed to happen. And that's what's drilled into every Secret Service agent. There has to be, because the detail agents, don't forget, they can't listen to all the other traffic. They have to be rock solid on protecting the president or the presidential candidate. So their frequency is just for their individual movements.
So in this instance, based upon what you know and what you heard from Commander Lentz and Mr. Blasco, a suspicious person was identified with a rangefinder. Pictures were taken of this person moving around a building, so much so that it drew the attention of one of the sniper teams who took pictures of it. If that information had been effectively communicated to the FBI, or if the FBI, I guess to rephrase that, had set up a communication system in a command post to receive that information, would that have been a situation where you would say the protectee shouldn't go on stage until we resolve this?
Congressman Kerr, you mean the Secret Service, not FBI?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Secret Service, right.
Yes, sir. What should have happened, in my opinion, is when the suspicious person was identified, the detail leader and the shift agent should have been told there's an issue, we're working a suspicious person. And then at that point, it was probably would be inappropriate to remove the president from the stage. But the detail leader should know there's an issue, I may have to react quicker. So at a minimum, when there's a suspicious person, the detail leader and the shift agent should be told there's an issue.
Yeah, pretty straightforward type stuff, man. I mean, which tells you, and you know what? I did find it interesting though that he said we may not remove him from the stage at that point, right? But hearing that there was a weapon, he didn't say this, but a guy with a rangefinder, okay, you should be aware that there's a guy there, right? But if if they report to the Secret Service that an individual has been spotted with a weapon, that's automatically a pull from stage event. They didn't quite touch on that, but I mean,
And then there was videos of the people in the crowd saying he has a weapon
right
on this.
right.
Yeah.
But
Why?
for some reason, the multiple command posts and it makes sense that for those of you maybe who are like, why wouldn't everybody be on the same frequency? There's a lot of radio traffic that happens, coordination and whatnot. That's why you have separate channels. But the top of the command structure or an individual should report on various things, right? All this miscellaneous crap doesn't need to be reported to every channel. But the sighting of a suspicious individual by, say, Group A should be relayed to the next,
Yeah.
and then eventually it would get to the command structure, the command team, the actual protector detail. And there's just so many failures here, man.
Yeah.
So many failures. Our next clip here is from it looks like it's also Crow, but then it goes to Joyce from Florida.
Because Crow asked a good question.
5021.
People would be gathering.
Okay.
Mr. Goldschmidt, are you still with us?
Yes. Yes.
Great. Just one brief question for you. Was the autopsy that you performed, was it in this case, was that a standard autopsy in your view? And what I mean by that, was there anything that stood out to you as unusual or different? Was there anything in the toxicology that stood out to you as unusual or different, or did it all appear to be a standard
That's a good question.
autopsy?
It was a standard autopsy. The only thing that we different was we did a little bit of extra toxicology testing with a heavy metal screening with a slightly elevated lead level. But other than that, the fact that there were FBI members and Pennsylvania State Police members present, it was a standard autopsy.
And
Yeah.
Okay. Slightly elevated, and I don't think you're talking about from the bullet.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what they were referring to.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that interesting.
That is interesting. So a slightly elevated lead content or, blood. Heavy metal toxicity is a huge problem, actually. But that's interesting. That would be something to look into. I mean, it could be as simple as something from the drinking water where he lives. I mean, it may be nothing at all. He may have just had, but I do find that interesting.
pictures were taken during this. It was documented. So, any markings in the body, tattoos in the body, that would all be evident from your report.
Correct.
And so slightly escalated lead levels, but nothing else that stood out.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Thank you. Now I'm going to recognize Representative Joyce from Ohio for 5 minutes. Mr. Joyce.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chairman Kelly. Lieutenant Harold, a lot of discussion I think will take place today about the advanced planning that took place. And my understanding is that from your testimony here was that you were involved in most of those day-to-day meetings leading up to this event and at the event with the Secret Service. Is that correct?
Sir, yes, sir.
And so could you go through that? Like, what was the first day you met with them? And then what did you discuss? And did the Secret Service, to your understanding, when they come in and take over a site, they're in charge of the site, and then they're helping, you are assisting them, and they're telling you, you tell them where people are going to be, the local folks who are there going to be, and they're basically in charge and know all those things ahead of time, where everyone's supposed to be, correct?
That's correct.
Did you have the opportunity then to understand that when the Secret Service came in, that they were telling the local folks, this counter sniper group, and I believe Mr. Blasco, that it was at the end of the day, it was the Beaver County sniper team that was in the HR building?
It was both Beaver and Butler, sir.
Okay. Did Secret Service ever talk to the Beaver County sniper unit?
Not to my knowledge.
And they were there that day in charge of this operation. Secret Service never
Yeah.
talked to them.
Isn't that weird?
Correct.
Thank you.
Oh, because that's not suspicious at all.
Isn't that? Yeah, I saw that. It was weird. Never talked to him.
Going back to you, Lieutenant Harold, the day of or day before the event, do you have a walkthrough with the Secret Service?
I had 2 walkthroughs at the site. There was a walkthrough on Tuesday. It was just a brief to get familiar with the property. We went back to the barracks. We pulled up an image of the farm show on a smart screen TV. We drew the fence line, spoke a little bit. The main meeting at the site was Thursday, and it was with the same 3 Secret Service agents. I was with 2 other PSP commanders. We walked the site starting at the main gate. We went clockwise around and looking at my ops plan, wherever there's a dot or a number, that was a stationary patrol. And then basically when we got near the end and I had everything that they had requested, I was informed by my Area 1 commander that if we needed additional troopers, that we could pull from surrounding troops. But after the request and the assignments that was given to us from Secret Service, I had plenty. I covered all the posts, and I had additional roving troopers inside the venue. So that was primarily the main meeting that we had with Secret Service was on Thursday, and then I completed the ops plan and had it forwarded out by 1,500 hours on Friday.
Okay. So, I mean, it sounds like the locals did everything they were supposed to do. All of that sounds fairly normal, with the exception of the lack of the Secret Service to assign a patrol / detail to that building, which happens to be the one building that this individual utilized. And they chose not to speak to the sniper team.
Yeah.
Which is also like, I don't know. I'd be interested. Did any of the representatives ask the guy from the Secret Service, the retired Secret Service agent, if that was normal? Do you remember?
I don't think they even asked.
Yeah, I would ask that. Is it customary for Secret Service to meet with members of counter sniper and sniper teams that are
That would be a
deployed to
good
the
question.
area? I'd like to know the answer to that question, but moving on, we only have a couple more clips left. They're not terribly long. Our next clip is the 1 hour, 5 minute, 48 seconds mark, and it's Representative Waltz from Florida. Different Waltz. The moron's a governor anyway. Let's see. Is he still the governor of Minnesota?
Oh yeah, he's still the
Is he
governor.
still the governor? Okay, so 105.48. Here we go. All right, so this is Representative Waltz from Florida, Republican from Florida.
Commander Lenz, Lieutenant Harrell, I want to take a step back to the planning. And really the threat profile that President Trump is facing that is
I'm going to pause it here just because I'm going to get us out of the way so you guys can read what's on the screen behind him. It says, quote, there was local police in that building. There was local police in the area that were responsible for the outer perimeter of the building.
And the former Secret Service head is the one who
Cheadle.
That was her quote.
Kimberly Cheadle. I remember we talked about her disaster of a appearance in front of the House or Senate. I don't
to do with the
remember.
House Homeland Security Committee.
There have been a few. Yeah, I think it was the Homeland Security hearings.
That
or
might be
something.
what it was.
But anyway, she appeared in front of them, and basically most of her answers were, "I don't know," or "I'm not sure," or something. But the one thing she did do was this statement right here, where she blamed the local police for it.
Precedented in modern American history. Commander Lenz, Lieutenant Harrell, were you made aware that Iran has ongoing assassination plots against President Trump that are active and ongoing right now as we speak, including to the run-up?
No.
To July 13th?
I am not aware.
Was it ever discussed with you that an Iranian operative
Yeah, they didn't even.
has transited Venezuela and was in the United States, according to FBI public notice made in March, recruiting hitmen to kill President Trump?
That sounds like something kind of freaking important that you should convey to the locals defending the subject of a contract. I mean,
Yeah.
It was not.
bruh.
Were you made aware on July 13th or on July 12th that day the FBI had arrested a Pakistani national, Mr. Merchan, with ties to Iran, putting down payments, actual cash, down payments to recruit hitmen?
No.
Were you aware that that same operative were recruiting women as spotters
Yeah.
and recruiting protesters as a distraction? A fairly sophisticated plot being run by a foreign state actor intelligence agency.
No.
Not aware.
Mr. Sullivan, in your experience, would that change how you operated? Would that heighten your level of coordination, assets?
Absolutely, Mr. Waltz. It would be a tremendous game
Common
changer.
sense.
But again, I harken back to my statement here at the beginning. The current situation with the Secret Service not being mandated to have information provided to it is a problem. Now, the Secret Service should have been part of that overall investigation. The Secret Service should have been part
Secret
of the
Service
arrest.
should have been aware.
Absolutely.
And
They probably
certainly,
were.
had you been in charge or in your experience, would certainly make local law enforcement aware, hey, we not only have ongoing plots, we just arrested someone in the United States putting down payments to kill President Trump. This is on top of the ongoing domestic threats, correct?
Yes.
You would
yes.
make your counterparts aware.
Yes, I would think those Secret Service headquarters knew about that. I'm assuming that. I don't know for
I
a
hope
fact.
so.
But
I would hope so too.
I've been in law enforcement my whole life. Unless you're in the room, unless you're one of the persons putting handcuffs on the suspect and bringing him in the room conducting the interview, you're never going to get the whole story. You have to be
But at
part
least
of
in
that
awareness,
arrest.
in fairness, just I have limited time, at least in awareness to your local law
Yes,
enforcement, right?
yes.
So were you also aware, was anyone aware that President Trump had been denied additional resources, but the reason the Secret Service counter sniper team wasn't there to coordinate with you is they were still pending approval at Secret Service headquarters. That's why the actual counter snipers weren't there to coordinate with you. Was anyone aware of that?
I was
But
not.
that they would be coming, maybe you should sync up, coordinate?
There was some discussion there. Like I think it was on Thursday because when you compare this to the 2020 rally, the Secret Service did not have a lot of the resources that was in Butler for 2020. And this event on July 13th, they seemed like they had a lot less resources. There was no CAT team. I don't think the CS team was coming at first.
That's right.
And early on, we had mentioned our CERT team, which is Special Emergency Response Team, utilizing them, but they felt that they were just needed in the motorcade.
So it was clear, heightened threat, you're not made aware, a lot less resources from the service. In addition, in terms of Secret Service post standards, 12 were allocated to Dr. Jill Biden's event in Pittsburgh, only 3 allocated there, making them highly dependent on you all. And in my time remaining, Commander Lentz, you said you were not given any guidance to secure the AGR building. Can you just talk about that for a moment? So essentially the site and the advance said, locals, you guys got this. Good. And was there any back brief? Was there any put assets here on the roof, inside, post standards, anything at all?
So once we received our duties, so the Secret Service says, here's what we want you to do. And on Tuesday, I believe it was Tuesday, they did request some sniper teams from us. And later that day confirmed that their counter snipers were coming in. But there was no guidance as far as where they wanted us to be, aside from what those specific duties would be. The counter assault team leader was very good at making sure we knew what was expected. The counter sniper walked through with us at the planning meeting. So they knew where we would be. They knew what our plan was. They never requested a formal copy of our plan.
This was all verbal.
Correct.
Right. And you never got any.
They never requested a formal copy of the defense plan.
No.
That's insane.
Yeah, there's so many things that
There's so many like gaps in the covers. There's so many questionable decisions that were made. This is nuts, dude.
Written guidance of how many assets to put where.
Correct. And it was our decision to place those snipers in the second floor of that AGR building. They were aware of that, certainly aware that they would be there, but there was no feedback or guidance that they wanted them there, that they didn't want them there. But really by not raising an objection.
Mr. Sullivan,
Okay, I gotta interject here real quick because again, this runs counter to what we were told because Secret Service said on numerous occasions, oh, there were supposed to be snipers on that roof. The locals were supposed to put them up there, but the locals instead it was hot and they didn't want to be up on the roof, so they went to the second floor and had coffee or something.
Yeah,
that was generally what Secret Service said. What we're finding out is this guy says we gave them the plan. We told them here's what we're going to do, and they went okay.
Mm-hmm.
So there was never a plan for them to have the snipers up on the AGR because that wasn't their responsibility.
Yeah,
we're learning a lot, and every time I learn more, it looks worse for the Secret Service, in my opinion.
should that guidance have been,
An objection.
and Mr. Sullivan, should that guidance have been provided? in your
Absolutely,
experience?
absolutely. No question about it.
Yeah.
And if you had additional Secret Service assets, would you have put the AGR building within the protective perimeter and the see-through chain link fence that anybody could have approached within yards of the stage? Would you have put that inside the perimeter with additional resources?
With additional resources, you could probably put that building inside the perimeter, but from my understanding, with the resources they had, the decision was made to put that building outside the perimeter. But it still could have been secured with post standers to prevent someone from getting on the roof.
So this was a lack of resources decision from Secret Service headquarters. If they had it, you would have done it differently.
No, Mr. Walsh, I don't want to say that. I wasn't there, but if the Secret Service had the resources, it would have been easier probably putting that within the secure perimeter. Then everyone going into the building would have already been magged and screened. But I mean, you have to take that on a case-by-case basis. Every site's different.
But at this point, you could go,
Mr. Walsh.
you could go up to that fence without being magged or screened.
Yes. That's correct.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, that's unreal.
Uh-huh.
So you could get to basically to the perimeter, inside the perimeter, without being, what he's talking about, mag wand, right? The wand that they run over you to make sure that you don't have anything metal on you. Screened, visual check. People can go right up to the fence line, and you've got a clear sight line to the stage.
Yeah.
Who made this plan? Who approved this?
That's a good question. Trump
Man,
is
oh,
lucky
man.
he's alive.
What's that?
Trump is lucky that he's
Oh
alive.
my God, yes, absolutely. Okay, so our last clip is Representative, I believe it's Dean.
Yep.
Yeah, Dean, Democrat from Pennsylvania, and it looks like it's about 7-ish minutes, and it is 1:12:31 to 1:19:28, and this is the last clip.
Yes, thank you. Ms. Dean, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I want to thank all of you for coming and being willing to assist us in trying to get at the facts of what happened, what went right, what went wrong. And I offer you my thanks for your service to community and to country, but I also want to say I'm sympathetic to your losses that day and the stress and trauma that it put on you and the entire community. I had the opportunity, I'm going to ask that the map be brought up. I and many others on this panel had the opportunity to do a site visit at Butler. Is that okay? Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, you don't have to hold it. Excuse me 1 second. Where's AGR? And what struck me, and I think most of us, was the proximity of the place, how close everything was. As we walked into that field and looked where the stage would have been and just looked to our left, the double fence line, very open double fence line, and then these buildings. So I'm going to start with you, Officer Plasko. And again, I thank you for your service to our country and, of course, to the community that week and that day and continuing. Officer Plasko, this set of buildings at the top here, they're adjoined buildings. There's a separate building. There's a parking lot. There's a wooded area. What we see at the top, is that the AGR complex?
Yes.
Okay.
Up here?
How far
I think that's where, yeah.
are the AGR buildings from the red barns behind the stage, which I don't think are shown here? Red barns were here.
They are approximately 130 yards.
Oh, I know.
130
But it's down
yards.
here, so that-
Okay. Is it your understanding that the AGR complex was left out of the
Yeah,
secure
let's see.
perimeter by Secret Service and the plans in the rally
There we go.
Oh,
outside
that's better.
of that which was established by Secret Service?
Yes, that was our understanding of it.
Okay, so I'm just really quickly, I'm gonna kind of. So Butler ESU was stationed down here. Oh no, this is the water tower.
Oh,
up
that,
here.
okay.
Okay. Yeah, it's really difficult to read these, but I believe that the AGR building is a lot closer than that.
Okay.
I think it's down around here at the farthest,
And the
because
stage is-
remember, what's that?
The stage is at the bottom, right?
Yeah, I think the stage is way down here. Let's let it play and see.
You said, well, I know you were on the ground on the 13th.
Even the government is not immune from ads.
In a patrol capacity, and your thoughtfulness of moving in so quickly is admirable.
Okay, I'm gonna pause it here because I just want to look real quick. Okay, the AGR building is right here. AGR building, the yellow, right here. The stage was right here.
Okay.
So
Wow, that's a
look at
direct-
that. That is a straight, direct path, guys. Wow. Like, how can you not make sure that's secured?
Yeah.
That's willful. That is absolutely. Either you are so freaking bad at your job that you should go back to, what was it? Where did she work? Cheetos? Right?
Cheetos, yeah.
Wasn't she guarding
Yeah,
Cheetos?
I think so.
I think she needs to go back to that. Obviously, she resigned. But either whoever was responsible for the ultimate decision here to exclude the AGR building from the perimeter needs to go back to guarding Doritos, Cheetos,
That's-
whatever. Because I don't do this for a living, and even I can go, gee, it has a straight shot to the stage. Maybe, just maybe, we should make sure that's secure.
You
Bruh.
think? Yeah.
You'd think.
To me, but you were there at the planning 2 days earlier, is that correct?
Yes.
On the 11th? Is it true that within minutes of joining the walkthrough on the morning of the 11th, you shared your concerns about AGR complex not being secure? Again,
Yeah.
here's the top where Crooks
What?
was positioned and dies,
Right here.
shoots from and dies.
Yep.
You shared your concerns about AGR complex. With whom and what did you say?
I did share my concerns with the agents, from my understanding, that were in charge of the site that day. I explained to them that the snipers inside that building were overwatching the venue itself, and that the whole area, specifically the whole area coming leading up from the water tower, we had no vantage point from. We could see part of.
Yeah, he's saying that they couldn't see anyone. Basically, this whole area here, they didn't have view on.
You know
Who
what?
made this plan?
Yeah,
Like,
good question.
who ultimately went, yep, this looks good, chunk. Like, I mean, I can see. Oh my God. Okay. All right.
The building that Crooks was on, but we had no access in that, or line of sight, I should say, to that area. And I asked the Secret Service members that we do not have the additional manpower to post anybody there, and I requested additional people to be posted there, so there would be no access to those grounds.
And what response did you get?
that they would take care of it.
They would take.
Bingo.
Ah,
That's it right there. If you guys heard, the Secret Service was informed, hey, we don't have the manpower to secure this, even if you wanted us to, which they didn't. Secret Service said, we got it. We got it covered. Again, completely counter to what we've been told. Absolutely 180.
Take care of it.
Yes.
And did you think that meant they would put it within their secured perimeter?
Whether they put it within their secure perimeter or they posted bodies, actual people there, that was my expectation of what was going to happen.
And I want to point out,
I think that's
for
a
the benefit of those who haven't been there, this is a fence line for the AGR property, is that correct? And it's a chain link fence,
Yes.
so you can see through it.
Yes.
And this property, AGR property parking lot, was not locked down. People could walk in and did walk in,
Yes.
This parking lot
including
here.
Mr. Crooks. This is another chain link fence, I believe, with just the grassy perimeter.
Yes.
Did they say anything about posting an agent or blocking, making opaque that fence line or both fence lines?
And just so you guys know, I was looking to see if I could see like a cursor where she's showing, but there's no cursor, there's no movement. She's not actually showing us. She's probably gesturing to it, which we don't have video of. But ultimately, we kind of get the gist of what she's saying.
So we were told that they were going to post a opaque fencing along the line. In the military, I called it sniper fencing, but it's an opaque fencing that you can't see it. It's a green fence that what I know it to be, that all the way around the outside of the perimeter.
Mr. Lieutenant Harold, can you talk about whether or not there was a discussion about posting vehicles along either of those fence lines? Farm vehicles, trucks, buses?
On Thursday, well, even on Tuesday and Thursday, there was discussion about farm equipment that they were going to post. It was the campaign that was going to post farm equipment. And at one point, it was along the pond side of the stage, and then they were discussing about putting some farm equipment up above between the stage and the AGR building. So there was also a contact that was provided to the campaign about a resource that would be able to provide additional equipment to banners, trailers, some of the same equipment that was utilized in the 2020 rally. And so I had put the campaign in contact with this individual. So if they needed additional equipment along that fence line. And then there was also some discussion about, I think it was like, I guess you would say a jumbotron or something, like there was supposed to be a screen of some sort, like blocking that area a little bit better. Saturday morning when we showed up, I think there was one combine that was between the AGR building and the stage, and there was a few additional tractors that was on the opposite side, on the pond side of the farm show there from the stage.
And Commander Lentz and Mr. Blasco, when Secret Service arrived, did anybody say to you all, well, we're missing some of the stuff we thought was going to be here to block that line of sight?
When I arrived the day of the rally, I actually did not speak to anybody from the Secret Service until I had to make a phone call to the Secret Service specific to a possible threat that the 911 center received.
I thank you. I recognize I've gone over, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. Again, I'll just.
Wow.
Right? Yeah.
Wow is
There was
right.
a lot
All right,
of
so
bombshells.
that's the end of the clips. Just so you guys know. But I think the biggest takeaway is, shocker, the Secret Service lied.
Yep.
They said, oh, the locals were completely in charge of that and should have had this and should have, they had snipers, but they got hot, so they went inside, and all of which was unadulterated bull.
Mm-hmm.
We've got the actual people from the event, as well as a former Secret Service director, not director, but a former Secret Service individual with many years of experience, as well as former Presidential Protection Detail, Secret Service, who knows what proper procedures are. And none of this passes the smell test, dude. Not at all.
No.
Like, there is some sketchy sketchy stuff going on. Now, question is, I mean, there's a lot of questions, but one of the questions is, was it the Secret Service or was it a command from on high? Because you said the Secret Service itself now falls under the jurisdiction of
the Department of Homeland Security,
which is headed by Mayorkas.
Mayorkas. I couldn't think
That's
of his
okay.
name.
Yeah, Alejandro Mayorkas. Yeah. So Mayorkas, who is not much of a fan of DJT, did he instruct them to leave a building out?
Yeah, never know.
You never know. You never know. We have seen some truly despicable behavior from the people in charge of the various agencies in this country, and this is no different.
No.
We got a comment that
I saw it.
Did you see it? Okay, so just to show you guys, I am an equal opportunity commenter. Guy says Republicans for Harris Waltz 2024. Okay.
And can I
Absolutely.
I want to know why you're for Harris and Waltz. What issue is the most important issue for you? Are you just trolling?
Yeah, are you still there, B. Thorne? Because
are you trolling? Or
I'm legitimately interested.
And what state are you from?
Yeah, where are you from? And what about their policies?
Or do you just dislike Trump?
Yeah, or is it, which is possible.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to say this. For those that claim they're Republicans for Walz, Republicans for Biden, I have found that it has nothing to do with policy at all. It is purely a hatred for Donald Trump.
And the best part I can see, or the best example of that is Liz Cheney is campaigning with Kamala right now.
Right. Which is really funny. Did you see the, I guess, country over party thing, right?
Yeah.
But it looks like the way that especially the way that it's written and the way that it looks like they're having a party because the country's over.
Oh.
Like, that's how, like, the vibe, man. But if you have some legitimate policies that you think are better, I'm more than willing to listen. I have yet to have anyone actually make that argument.
It's just that orange man bad.
Orange man bad, yes. I'm going to tell you, man, I started as I liked Trump, but I was not a fan of the Twitter. I was not a fan of saying this, and
I'm still not.
And I know you're still, you know,
No.
I have done a 180 on that. I'll be honest, I love it now. I love it because of the extreme ridiculousness that the left has gone to, not only to say outright lies about the man, but to deceptively pull clips and say, oh, he said the very fine people thing is one
True.
example, far from the only one, but one example. Inject bleach. He never said that.
No.
There's so many examples of deceptive practices from the so-called media that if you would legitimately just look at Trump's speeches in their entire, you don't even have to go in their entirety because the man talks a lot. But take the inject bleach thing as a for example, right? If you listen to the entire context around it, it's obvious he didn't say inject yourself with bleach. Not at all. He talked about some revolutionary medical treatments that were out there where they use disinfectant to basically irradiate or kill viruses. And scientists actually spoke out and said, oh yeah, that's actually a real thing. We do that.
He gets himself. Why I don't like it is the media then focuses on his comments and they don't really focus on him on policy. And he's great on policy. He's an American first guy. And if you just stayed on policy
really quickly there.
Okay.
Don't lose your train of thought. I just want to say this. One of the things I found very interesting is, remember, guys, none of these politicians, especially the politicians on the left, were even remotely America first until DJT. the whole, that whole infrastructure bill, and what was it, the Reduce Inflation Act or whatever.
you're talking
joke of a bill. $1 trillion, and I don't know about you, but I haven't seen inflation go down.
No. And
our infrastructure is still fucking crumbling.
Yeah.
So where did all that money go? Illegals. But that aside, I haven't seen this kind of focus on America first until Donald Trump came to the forefront and said, we need to bring back manufacturing in the U.S. We need to make our stuff here. We need to do this. We need to do that. Then all of a sudden, it was cool to be USA first.
Uh-huh.
Go ahead. You lost your train of thought.
Yeah, I did. I was just
outside of me interrupting.
I was just going to say that he's an American first, and you hear every single president since Obama that we're going to work on infrastructure.
Yeah.
And it never happens.
It never happens. Even, like I said, even the so-called Inflation Reduction Act, I don't see this revitalization of our infrastructure. Where is the hardening against the EMPs? I want to see that, especially on our power grids. Our military should all have equipment that is not vulnerable to EMP attacks. It's no secret. Countries around the world have said, if you're going to attack the U.S., start with an EMP, because they're heavily reliant on electronics.
And about a week ago, China doing missiles. I don't know if you heard about that. Starting with testing. I think they're testing to do an EMP.
Yeah.
Like they're doing what are they called? Different kinds of missiles into our atmosphere now. So it's kind of getting scary. So you are right, man, that we need to
harden our infrastructure. We need to rebuild our infrastructure, because I don't know if you guys, we were talking about this. Me and my buddy went to South Bend the other day for something, and Highway 2 from here to South Bend is always under construction, like always. And of course, it's down to the one lane on each side now, where they got both sides on the same side, one lane. And I'm like, is this ever going to be done? And he's like, yeah, just in time for winter, where the plows are going to come through and destroy it all with the plows.
The 49 from Chesterton to Vapo, they've been working on that road for at least a year and a half now.
Yeah, forever. Shit, they did Highway 20 here for like 3 years in a row, like constant, not in a row, just.
It's annoying.
Like stable. 3 years. They finally finished a couple of years ago. As a matter of fact, when I ran for state rep, I had people that are like, can you make them stop?
Yeah.
Can you just make them finish, please? And that got me down this rabbit hole on like the asphalt unions and why the roads are the way they are and what we use. And it was this whole other thing. Yeah. But that aside, we need to upgrade our infrastructure.
No doubt.
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And I'm all for that. That's why when the bill was announced and people were talking about it, and they're like, oh yeah, it's going to do this for their infrastructure. And and I'm like, no, you need to read it. And that's a chronic problem. And look, don't get me wrong. I don't want to read 1,100 pages of bullshit either. But that's why it's so important that we have a robust media. So that they can investigate, they can do their job, they can read through the entirety and go, okay, yeah, do. But our media has failed us for decades now. You'll have the so-called mainstream media that will pick out their talking points that the DNC tells them they need to run with, and they'll go, oh yeah, it's going to do this and it's going to do that. But it's not. It's not. Have you guys noticed inflation go down since they passed the Inflation Reduction Act? No. Of course not.
Rand Paul is one of the good guys that does break down bills. There's times where he does tweet different portions of a bill that's coming out.
Mm-hmm. I will say that. I agree with you wholeheartedly on that. Paul is one of the good ones. I like Massey as well. I like Massey. He's done some really good things with informing the public as to what's really in this crap. And we need to lock in single issue bills. That has to be a thing, because they're passing these omnibus bills that have millions, billions, sometimes trillions of dollars in spending, and most of it's gone.
We need Rand Paul's penny plan too.
I agree with that.
And then a balanced budget amendment.
Yes. Yeah. These are all things that we have. If we want to get serious about taking our country back, because I want, dude, I love this country, man.
I do too.
There's nowhere else in the world like the United States. There's just not. But we're the last bastion. The U.S. falls, it's done, dude. It's over. I love this country. I hate my government. If we want to ensure that this country is around for future generations with the opportunities like our fathers and grandfathers mostly had, the real American dream, then we need to ensure that things like single issue bills, penny plan, balanced budget amendment, these are all things that have to happen. We need to put pressure.
And the problem is it takes time to implement, and we're actually running out of time.
Oh, we're way out of time, man. We're way out of time. I'll say this. No matter what happens this election, I'm concerned.
Yeah.
I am.
One side is going to be upset.
One side is I think upset is like, upset is what I get when, I can't find my drill. We're talking about
anger,
real rage, one side or the other. No matter who wins, we're looking at some real unadulterated rage. And I don't know what you guys' plans are for the next few days after the election, but I'd recommend you limit them. Don't put yourself in a situation where you have to be a problem solver.
And the scary thing is that the map, it could actually end up as a tie. There's scenarios, and the Congress would be the one to decide. Yeah. And that would be even worse.
That would be even worse.
Yeah, it could be 269, 260. My brother's we've talked about that scenario, and it's possible.
It is. I think though, last chance, Thorn, whoever you are. If you guys, I'd love to hear your take. If you have a real policy that you prefer, or if it's just orange man bad. I know what I think, but I put it this way. Any real conservative that I've talked to backs Donald Trump. Just because, forget the tweets, forget this, forget that, America first.
Yep.
And more importantly, American citizens first. Because especially after Springfield, man, I have zero faith in our government. None. From local all the way up, all of it's corrupt. All of it. And unfortunately, we have to get serious about getting candidates out there. Recruit your family, recruit your friends. Guys, grassroots is the only way we're going to win this. That's just all there is to it. I've been trying to talk my buddy into running for office. He's like, I don't have time, because most of us have to work and take care of our family and do this and do that. I happen to be in a unique position where I was able to take some time and run for office, but most people can't do that, And so unfortunately, we're stuck with the people who can afford to do that.
And some people don't want to go through that process as well. And another thing is they don't really care about power, most people. The problem is that people who crave power and crave publicity are the ones that win office.
Oh, for sure.
And that's the problem.
Well, let's look at it this way, right? And then we'll kind of wrap it up. I know we're getting a little, I could talk for hours, but so, because I've had multiple discussions with people about we need to cut pay for Congress and we need to cut pay for this and cut pay for that. As a matter of fact, it should be right. You should do it for free. That's a horrible idea.
Yeah.
It's an absolutely terrible idea because look at the job market, right? Forget about politics for a moment. Look at the job market. The really, really good jobs you only get if you've been an intern. And the only way to be an intern is if you have the money to survive being an intern. Who has the money to survive being an intern?
The wealthy and the rich.
Exactly. I can't go intern for a place So I'm going to give you a prime example. So my wife was looking into a particular degree that she wanted to get for a field that she was very interested in. One of the requirements was to spend 6 months unpaid in a particular environment, basically being an intern. There's no way we could afford to do that. 6 months, no pay, full-time job, $0. Still got to pay for commute, still got to pay for this and that and the other. Still got all your regular, all your regular bills. There's no freaking way we could do that. But of course, someone who has mommy and daddy's trust fund, no problem. And we're just seeing, and that's why the gap is growing, right? The rich and poor gap, the 1% of 1% of 1% are getting richer, and the middle class is dying. That's just one small reason on the mountain of reasons why this is happening. And our government is more than complicit. They're pushing it. They're absolutely pushing it. I mean, look at the money that, and again, I don't care about your particular feelings about Springfield and the situation that's going on there. There's no reason we should be spending more on asylum seekers from other countries than we should on our own people.
Yeah. Should be American first.
America first. Americans first. Citizens first. When we talk about like our tax dollars, forget about federal for a moment. Let's talk about local and state. It should go to, like, if you, the tax, let's talk about LaPorte, right?
Okay.
LaPorte taxes, and I'm not talking about county, I'm talking about city taxes, should go for LaPorte City stuff. Michigan City taxes should go for Michigan City stuff. LaPorte County taxes, fine. Now, I will say Michigan City a lot of the time gets kind of shafted when it comes to county funds. But that's because Michigan City has money. Michigan City has the casino. They get the bulk lion's share of that money. But that's starting to run out. And we're going to see some interesting decisions being made shortly. But more importantly, the taxes that get paid into the county, the cities around here, go back here, as they should. Should you pay taxes so they can fly someone in from another country, give them food, give them medical care, give them housing, while you struggle to feed your family? No. Hell no. That's ridiculous. That's some socialist shit right there. And I am all for social programs. My wife, as longtime viewers of the channel know, she's a Medicaid waiver case manager. She works with people with developmental disabilities. I know all about that community and having social services for those, for people who need them. But there's no reason that my taxes should bring people over and pay for their food, housing, medical care, and everything when our citizens are living on the street.
Yeah.
That's bullshit.
That is bullshit.
It's ridiculous. And that's why the people of Springfield are angry. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. So, all right, guys. It was a very enlightening hearing,
so too.
An extremely enlightening hearing. I'm very interested in where this goes from here. And more importantly, whether or not there's going to be any accountability.
I doubt it.
You don't think so?
I think the accountability is that one woman had to resign.
Yeah. Cheadle.
Yeah.
Go back to Garden Doritos. Unreal, dude.
Yeah.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you spending the time with us. Thorne, you had your chance, man. I'm positive it was one of those, I would have trolled him.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. Because, if you legitimately can stand up for what you believe, I'd love to hear it. By all means. Hell, I'll have you on the show. We'll talk about it.
I'll debate you.
Yeah. Something I've noticed that's always wild to me, right? You get those people that, like I had somebody in my TikTok comments. Yes, I have a TikTok. Wasn't my idea.
I know.
But I had somebody in one of the videos that I posted on TikTok that was like, that was angry about Micah Beckwith being elected, right, at the convention. And they were angry. They were like, oh, you guys are destroying the Republican Party and this. So I was like, okay, cool. They were like, I'd love to tell you about it. I said, tell me about it. I'll have you on the show. We'll do it. They're like, well, let's do it live. I was like, okay, let's do it. That was what I planned. But okay, crickets and the clink of silverware.
Yeah.
No answer after that.
He's probably trolling you.
And I'm used to it.
There's a lot of trolls.
There really are a lot of trolls. And I'm someone who I love debate. I love like open discussion, not yelling at somebody and calling them, names, but actually discussing ideas. It's one of the reasons I really enjoy doing this show with you. But one of the things that was difficult for me, especially when I ran for office, right, is I have a friend who was helping with my social media and he kept wanting to block people. And to his credit, they weren't people asking legitimate questions. They were trolls, right? They were not sincere in their questions. It was just people being idiots, right? But I'm like, no. Number one, I think the biggest tell for a person running for office is how they handle that sort of conflict.
Yeah, I agree.
Are they someone who's just going to block people? Because that's not who I want to elect. Or are they someone who's going to, it may be a fruitless discussion, but nonetheless, I always tried to respond to every comment that I would get, even, the negative ones. Dude, some of the PMs that I got, oh my God, man. I mean, I ran as a Republican, so that should tell you something. Yeah, I mean, everything from, you should end yourself. Wow. It ran, because, of course, since I was a Republican, I wanted grandma to die. That was their big thing. You want grandma to die.
They claim, and you want to take away all of Social Security.
Yeah.
The usual nonsense.
The usual nonsense. But I always found it like important for me. And one of the things that I noticed that was like really telling to me is especially like the biggest trolls. Once I would have like 8 to 10 comments back and forth of me responding intelligently and calmly, they'd always end up deleting their comments. Always. Every single time. Anytime they lose the argument, they delete their comments. And then it just looks like I'm talking to myself. All right, ladies and gentlemen, have a good night. We'll talk to you again real soon. Shawn's got to get his schedule to know what his days are next week. But I have a whole lot of stuff coming up this week. I'm going to try and make sure that I got some videos lined up for you guys. Even if I'm not able to do them live, you'll have some content. And I think probably what I'm going to do really soon is try to just do a playlist with the unedited Springfield videos so that you guys can just go and watch them. You've seen some of them. It's good stuff. Like the breakfast, I think, was probably the most telling of all of the engagements that I had, because the guys there they're people from the city of Springfield, and they're telling me how there's 20-year-olds attending high school with their 13-year-old granddaughter. They're talking about how the police are being told to not cite people for no tags. But if it was us, oh my God, man, like I had a car impounded because I didn't have tags on it yet when I was 17. The laws apply to us. Like there's a lot there. Ideally, so part of it is upside down because auto rotate wasn't working properly or something. I'm trying to figure out how to fix that. I have a line on doing it, but it's going to take some time. If you guys don't mind watching a little upside down footage, I'd say probably like 5 minutes of the overall video is like upside down. It's like a 30-minute video, but like 5 minutes in 2 different parts is upside down. I may just post it. You guys can watch it. And then later on, you'll have the unedited, or I should say the edited, fixed salient points of it. All right, guys, have a good night. We'll see you again real soon. God bless you. God bless Indiana. And God bless the United States of America. Have a great evening.
If you'd like to support the show, please visit our Patreon at patreon.com/Dion's Daily Dose. This has been Dion's Daily Dose, hosted by Dion Bergeron. Executive producers, Shawn Holgram and Michael Beebe. Copyright 2024. Dion's Daily Dose, all rights reserved.